Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Peter, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey. Joining me as ever, prettiest boy under the sun, chief of the debauchee tribe. 3 children stacked on top of each other in a trench coat, pretending to be an adult man. All of them ripped, all of them are shredded, and have huge cocks. Possibly on roids.
And roids.
And one is uncut.
And a.k.a. Trevor Man Mac himself.
Sam Speed with
Sam
the Splack Attack.
Speed, R. Baller, Richard Baller.
Dick Baller.
Et al. Aaron Joseph Pita.
That's me.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You look pretty fucking good to me.
I feel pretty good.
You're looking pretty good from over here, pal.
I feel good. How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel really great.
Well, good, because you smell like shit.
Huh?
Plus, I farted.
Plus, I farted. Yeah.
How about that fart joke in Watchmen, huh?
Was there a fart joke?
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, yeah.
With the little at the end. Like,
Yeah.
ooh, nice. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it was quite good.
Speaking of
Fart jokes?
fart jokes,
You're
yeah.
terrible at these intros.
Yeah,
Awful.
you know
Abysmal.
what? I'm good at stuff.
You're not.
I'm good at
not
other
this.
things.
Not
I'm
this.
good at other things.
Not this.
I'm good at other stuff, okay?
Yeah. Just,
All right?
God, I build you up and you just let me down all day.
Well, you know.
Make it special. Come on. Lean in. Chop, chop.
Oh, Chop.
Matt Brousseau.
You didn't even throw a doctor on there, you
Thank
piece
you.
of shit.
LSD.
I'm not on duty right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's on booty.
All right.
Matt, how are you?
I'm doing great. I feel fantastic.
You look great. The haircut's still really working out
thank
for
you.
you
Thank
smell great.
Oh, do I?
Yep.
I did take a shower later today. I mean, earlier today.
Plus, you farted.
Yeah, well, that's the place to do it. Actually, no.
It makes it worse.
It makes a
The
total mess
humidity
of that
really
shower.
kicks up
yeah.
the fart of
It's
How
really-
about this humidity? Aaron, you know that we're nearing a mere 1,000 followers on Instagram. Tens of thousands listening
my God.
across the globe.
we only, I mean, I'm not taking the Instagram for granted, but we only have 1,000.
It doesn't make any sense, and that's why I'm saying to the listener,
1,000 followers on Instagram, but 1,000, 10,000 listens a week.
yeah, a week. per
Why?
week.
Where are the? Please, could we get some interaction on the Instagram?
Yeah, we gotta have you guys follow, and please subscribe to the Patreon, and get an extra episode per week. And
Following us on Instagram is free,
yes,
Oh, that's
yes,
true,
and
yeah.
in fact, it
that's
only
really
benefits
true.
you.
right. And even if you subscribe for $1 on Patreon, you get the regular episodes ad free.
You don't have to hear these bullshit ads for diapers or
Mm-hmm.
Raytheon.
Yeah, Blackwater
Yeah.
security.
Yeah, exactly.
I think at some point we're
Uh,
reading about boner pills and gambling.
Oh, that's going to happen.
We're gonna be doing reads.
If we're lucky, yeah.
Oh,
my
we're gonna
God,
be reading for
like
them.
Blue Chew.
Oh, well.
Do you hate your son's college fund? Do you love sports?
And are you limp?
It's a one-stop shop. Gamble with your penis.
Gamble on generic Viagra chewables.
I gamble on if he's hard or not.
5 to 1.
What's the line on that?
You got Chop?
Over under.
Yes. That's a great thing from Casino. He's like Sam could even tell if the quarterback was on coke. Remember that?
Yeah.
So dumb.
Here's a hint. They were on coke.
It
Was it the
yes.
80s?
Yeah.
Was it the 90s?
Yes. Get involved with the Patreon. Get involved with the Instagram.
Get involved.
PP Podcast on Twitter, Matt.
Yes.
Is that about right?
Yep.
Does that sound about right?
Yeah. I could
What
be,
happened
more,
in the
I
last,
could be more consistent with it.
What happened in the last Patreon we did?
That was connections, right?
No, we did.
No.
Oh, we talked about death,
We did.
and then
Ig Nobel prizes.
Ig Nobel prizes, and then we talked about Parasite, the film.
The motion picture, yes.
Quite fun.
See it in theaters now.
Quite fun.
Yeah, thank you for the comments on the Patreon.
Very,
Fantastic.
very
Yes.
sweet.
I gotta thank you for the comment. Is there anything this guy doesn't know?
Mm.
No, there's not. I know everything.
That's yeah.
Thank you.
Well.
And thank you for recognizing that.
And shout out to Donna for just the debauchery.
The tenacious Donna Marie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the tenacious D.
Can I get a dongle?
Oh,
please?
fuck.
I got your dongle right here, pal.
There's a lot of stuff in front of me. You
Okay.
see it? You see it right over there? See that green boxes? There's a wire just kind of like
Oh, this one.
Just
That's
coming out
the
of it.
one.
Yeah, plug that in your
Bingo.
fucking phone.
show really writes itself.
Shout out to Pinball Pizza in Burbank.
Oh yeah, just they've been feeding us.
Yeah, just feeding us some really good.
They have some good crust.
Then
That's what really makes
it's a
the
nice
pizza.
crust.
Yeah.
The dough is nice.
Mhm.
I want to. The dough is very nice. Shout out to Pinball Pizza, indeed. I want to save something a little stupid for the end because this part's serious. So I feel like it would be like, if you're like not into stupid shit, you could turn it off, and I'll tell you we're gonna get into the dumb shit.
Okay.
But I want to
Don't turn it off, please.
don't turn it off. I mean, if you feel like dumb shit, that is also gross and disgusting.
Wait till the end.
Wait till the end. But I wanted to get into this thing I've always really been into. That's just, I don't know, totally insane and bizarre phenomena of the stigmata.
I'm familiar with that.
And there was, when I lived in Ireland, I saw this documentary which I hunted down on YouTube, which it's pretty fair. It's pretty like, is this a fucking total hoax? Is it psychosomatic? Is it religious phenomena? And it starts off with a dude in Scotland that is
Scotland?
yeah, I don't know why I said it weird.
Welcome to
You just do an
welcome
episode
to
every
Scotland.
fucking 10
I'm
fucking
Scott.
years and listen to me. This guy, he's so Scottish that it's subtitled. So if you have any questions,
Oh, fantastic.
I can tell you what
he
he's
just
saying.
got off his job.
Yeah, yeah. Does it say where he worked?
He's just like in a hoodie walking down the street, having a great old time. He's on his way to the doctor because he's got a bit of an issue.
It's not that great of
Does
a
he say
time.
cunt a lot?
He, I don't think he drops a single C-bomb, but he's a devout Catholic, of course.
I've got the stigmata like a fucking.
Who are the stigmatists?
Fuck, who are these guys?
What is the nature of their strange markings?
Ooh.
You like that?
Can we get a full screen? Maybe just like rotate it to the side.
Can I do anything else for you?
Yeah,
In
that-
Glasgow, in Scotland, one man has stigmata wounds that usually bleed once a week. Like
Move
most
it to your right.
stigmatists, George Hamilton is a devout Roman Catholic. He also shares a problem that some stigmatists have. He is unable to eat solid foods.
What?
George has to be fed through a drip feed in his nose.
What?
What?
His doctor, John Spence, recalls the first time he saw the wounds.
What he did was he took his gloves off and showed me his hands. They weren't covered, there were no bandages on. He had these marks on his hand. He'd just take these gloves off, and it was the first time I'd seen these things at all.
Things at all?
You see the stigmata of the tracking sign
I've been
on the
looking for
video?
something unusual about George for some time. Having known him for
Since
some
when
years before,
you have the
I've always
stigmata,
felt
you
there's
can't
been
eat
something
solid
missing,
food?
from his story, but
Sometimes they
this
starve
is something unusual. Right, what do we do for the day?
Your prescription?
Right. Can you take it off? Do you want me to take it off?
Huh?
Take it off.
On you go. You tear my hair there. Oh gosh, right.
It's still bleeding.
It's still running. That's worse than the first time, eh? Still going on.
This guy's just a hemophiliac.
Any other spots come up? I know the other hand, but has there been any other points since I saw it?
Just bit in the sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that where Jesus got it?
No, I haven't seen that before. He has told me on more than one occasion that he really doesn't want this. He would quite like it to go away.
I don't want to bleed profusely from my limbs. If you don't mind. If it's not too much trouble at all. I've got the fucking
George's
spear
marks
in
seem
me
to have
ribs.
no
Stop
medical
that.
explanation. Skeptics wonder
Here
if the
comes
marks
the
are not
fucking
self-inflicted.
crown.
I've known
She's
him
crowning
for a long
the-
time now. I don't think that someone would do this in such a way, in such a repeated way. It'd be quite difficult, but it certainly is possible you could do it yourself.
Of course you can do it yourself.
Of course.
Of course you can.
In knowing George and spent time not only in the surgery with George, but even taking him out for a coffee outside the surgery context and got to know him quite a bit. Yes, I don't see George as doing this to himself at all.
So, I mean, this is just the guy in Scotland going to his local doctor, and he's just trucking around in a hoodie, whatever. He's got a beard.
Yeah, it's a big beard.
Fairly
Hey, not a
normal-looking
huge beard, I
dude.
guess.
Christ-like.
Generally,
That's me.
other than the constant gloves and blood.
Well,
And the stigmata in the wrong part of the hand.
yeah. But
Well, they seemingly all do.
They seemingly all happen.
In the hand. I don't think there's any case where it's in the wrist that I've seen ever.
It's probably because they're all fake.
Yeah.
Now you know it's real when somebody shows up with a.
Aaron, work on exposition here. Come on, let's just slow down. You know what I mean? Give me 1 second here, pal.
If I was a faker, if I was a stigmatist, that's what they're called. They're called stigmatists. You heard the guy.
They are.
oh,
I'd
God,
eat solid food. I'll tell you that.
Well, when you say astigmatist,
I have astigmatism in my special.
Well, you know who has astigmatism is the stigmatists that bleed from their eyes. You ever seen them?
They weep blood.
Yeah, they're
God.
they're.
I thought that was just statues.
I mean, those the one woman that has that is like bleeding, like she's like on film, and she is a mess. I
Yeah,
mean,
she's bleeding on film.
She's crying blood. It's pouring out of her hands. Like, she makes that guy look like nothing, dude. Like, I mean, this woman, she is fucking.
Jesus.
She's falling to pieces,
Oh my
dude.
God.
And she's just like fucking. She's talking in Aramaic and shit. Like, it's pretty wild. And so the interesting thing about the phenomena is that it's like.
Well, let's give for the listeners who don't know what the stigmata is.
It is the supernatural or not, psychosomatic or self-inflicted wounds of Christ, bleeding.
So through the hands, through the feet,
pretty much
perhaps the stab wound in the abdomen,
crown of thorns.
crown of thorns,
Yeah. So as this guy is going in the documentary
Hemorrhoids.
to the doctor,
the holy hemorrhoids.
he's discovering the new wounds as he goes, right? And that's kind of like what happened with several of the subjects here. It starts off hands and feet, and then later on they would develop the scourging, the whips on the back, the spear wound in the ribs, crown of thorns, and then some of them just are weeping blood too.
Doctor, is part of the stigmata herpes? Because this keeps coming and
The holy herpes.
yeah, the holy herpes.
It's like a lot of people are like that defend it and think that it is like a holy phenomenon or whatever. They're like, well, there's this person, like they're all like private people, and it's like, well, the point may not be attention, you know.
Right.
In the case of some of the people, it might be, but I think in a lot, it's just like, high religious, kind of like fervor and just getting really carried away. Like, there's those, like, have you ever heard of Jerusalem phenomenon and like stuff like that? Like Jerusalem syndrome.
Yeah.
There's also Paris syndrome. There's like these things where
When you go to these cities
and you get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and you kind of experience like a mania
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and people think they're like getting affected. And in the case of Paris, it's like Stendhal syndrome, which is like overwhelmed with like beauty or something, or of kind of going to a place that's always existed in your mind and then being there in real life, and that makes you kind of crazy. But in Jerusalem, it's got the same kind of thing, but with like a religious aspect to it.
It's an overflow of the feelings of that place.
Right.
But, Campbell talks about when he goes to the Lascaux Caves, and he talks about feeling almost a religious experience, seeing the
30,000-year-old cave paintings.
cave paintings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's whether those places are imbued with something or it's just in our heads, it's still a very real thing.
Yeah, and maybe there's some sort of desperation to feel something, and you get overwhelmed because you almost want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason for me to believe too that a lot of this stuff is it really only happens in the most devout of people.
Right.
There is almost
Except Patricia Arquette in the movie Stigmata.
Yeah, I remember really wanting to watch that movie, and I think I tried several times, and it just sucks, right?
I mean, I watched it start to finish.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Really?
Yeah, it came out the same time as Seventh. What's the one with Arnold? Seventh Day?
Ninth something.
Not Sixth Day. No, not Ninth Gate. That was a Roman Polanski movie. You probably love it.
Never saw it.
It's actually quite good.
Oh yeah, of course you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it on mushrooms one time. Oh man,
But just because you didn't leave the theater doesn't mean the movie didn't suck.
that's right. Did the Stigmata motion picture?
I think I sat through the whole thing, but I couldn't tell you what it's about. And I'm
it's about
interested in
it's about
Stigmata.
a party girl getting the Stigmata. She's not religious at all.
And I love Patricia Arquette, but
Yeah.
I think that movie sucks so bad that I just didn't give a shit at all.
And I think Gabriel Byrne is in both movies.
GB? Ugh.
Gabriel Byrne in one.
Yeah,
is-
he had a
is
heyday for a minute.
He was an investigator for the church.
Mhm.
He lost his faith, and he investigated paranormal, like religious claims, like
Right.
miracles.
Yeah, I never saw the Da Vinci Code, but that's presumably where a lot of that is involved. Isn't it like the Catholic Church investigation department?
No,
It's not?
no.
Oh, I thought it was
No.
like they had like a huge miracle investigation unit, and a lot of the Da Vinci Code stuff was based around that sort of shit.
Not so much.
No?
but it is based around,
Tom Hanks.
who is God. So
Right. Yeah. So the Catholic Church does usually throw water on this stuff. They kind of hate it when this shit comes up.
Mhm.
St. Francis of Assisi was the first person with Stigmata that they know of. Later on, there would go to be the most famous 20th century case, which is the one I want to talk about today, which is Padre Pio.
Padre Pio.
Yes, in Italy, who was just a very poor Italian boy that grew up in early 20th century, and his parents were like farmers and totally illiterate, and just told the children stories, like holy stories,
Generic
like
Bible stories.
yeah. And, a bunch of the kids died, and, it was not an easy go of it. But, like, by age 5, Padre Pio was like, I see the Virgin Mary, I see Jesus Christ, I see guardian angels, I see all this kind of stuff. And he'd already, like, devoted, like, his life to God.
Mhm.
And he's 5, so he's already got to tend to the farm, you know what I mean? And he was literally tending to a flock of sheep, right? And then it was just like, I want to, get involved in the church immediately, right? And so he kind of tries out to join the Capuchin order. And they are like, yeah, his education's lacking a little bit here. So his father, like, traveled to America to get better work, to be able to afford to send his son
Wow.
to, get the proper education, like private schooling to get in the order, And he's, and the thing is that this guy presides over the most fascinating part of the 20th century in Italy.
And he's just he's not a high ranking member.
Not at all.
He's just a local
Local
priest.
Yeah, friar.
Uh-huh.
Just like the regular dude,
Mhm.
And he's he goes through the whole thing, and he's kind of like just starts getting sick like immediately. Like he's just like in really bad shape, and like barely finishes his training because he's just like he gets sent home for a while. Like he's just a mess. He's really, really, really sickly, and he's just like he's really nothing to write home about. He's a pretty regular priest, which is kind of like part of the whole thing where it just doesn't seem like I'm the flashy guy that wants to carve my hands open. Look at me, I'm Jesus. He just doesn't seem like that kind of guy, But he does have a lot of stuff where he would say, like, I think, like, 200 something Hail Marys every day. So he would get into these very heightened meditative stands, and he would call it meditation too,
Which is what it is.
yeah. He would
It's a mantra.
yeah,
You just you repeat that enough, and you're in a trance.
and you're high,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
some of these people like around this time, like in the early days, would like report seeing him like levitate and stuff, and like
Well, so I think back to the episode where we talked about fads, and I was talking about the stylites or stillets or whatever, I forget how to pronounce it. But the people who show off as the most pious are not the people saying, "Look at me."
Mhm.
They're the people, and even you could argue a man standing on a column for 50 years is saying, "Look at me."
Right.
He's not actually saying it. He's just doing a thing
Right.
without calling verbally calling.
Right.
for
It's
people.
like the people who they self-flagellate
Right.
in procession, or there's even they take blades and they'll cut themselves and shit. It's a show of
Yeah, he doesn't really
piety.
have that going on. They think that maybe Assisi did. But Pio was just kind of like falling apart and like fainting spells, exhaustion, no appetite again.
He's just not.
There's kind of like
he's forcing himself into these places to experience dehydration and lack of
yeah, and
food,
then maybe
but-
kind of hallucination, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's like migraines going on, insomnia. I think they said his fucking alarm clock was set for like 2:30 a.m. And like he works like 17-hour days and shit. Like nobody really knows when this guy fucking slept. But in the early times, there's like people said, like one guy said they saw him levitating. It was just like a lot of things where they see like him like in a stupor, like he was just gone, just not there, So they sent him to like a mountain convent in 1905, and that's like not even helping either. And then they just make him go home, and he's still gets through. He gets he makes his solemn profession, as they say. He becomes a friar, priest, whatever. And he still has to live with his family until 1916 because his health is just a fucking nightmare. And he comes back to he finally gets to a church in September 1916. It's like an agricultural area, and there was just like 7 priests, and he's in. It's called the San Giovanni Rotondo, and he stays there until the end of his life, except for a period of military service, which you have to do.
Was he the chaplain in the military? What was he?
He's sick.
Yeah.
He's just sick
okay.
the whole time. It's like the worst guy you get sent to the military. It's problems. Probably had to have 3 other soldiers take care of him the whole time.
Yeah, it's probably good morale in the hospital or something.
And so he's just known for this meditative stuff at the time. And he says, the person who meditates and turns his mind to God, who is the mirror of his soul, seeks to know his faults, tries to correct them, moderates his impulses, and puts his conscience in order. So he's just saying, he compares doing your confession to cleaning your room.
Mm-hmm.
And meditation is just like an even more frequent version of that kind of thing. It's very much like TM. I mean, the transcendental meditation is twice a day. He's like, you pray in the morning before you do anything. And he's like, and then you pray at night to like re-examine everything that happened during the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And TM is like the same exact thing almost. And he had a pretty upbeat philosophy for a guy that experienced excruciating pain his whole life. I mean, the man was in agony. But you wouldn't be if you had Hit Balm, which is a CBD herbal balm that, you can't put it on open wounds if you have stigmata, for instance.
I would not recommend it.
But if you take a hit, you know what I mean? You can rub it on there. Not on open wounds. Hitbalm.com. Get some for your mom. The poor woman is in agony.
Promo code.
Promo code John Fahey, JOHNFAHY, all caps, one word, 15% off. And you'll enjoy that.
Now, I mean,
It's a true godsend.
Yes, he's going through a lot of pain, but if he's that religious, is he not going? There's a purpose.
Yeah, the agony is the ecstasy, right? Like there is.
Yeah, but there's that way of going about it where you're like, you owe him, the suffering one, especially while you're bleeding.
But he's not doing that.
He's not doing that.
But that, I mean that it's an internal. He's
It's also,
pious.
it is a. I imagine he would find some dignity in it.
Yes,
There's something dignified about suffering, especially in like Catholicism, right?
Yeah. Well, his maxim, I mean, for its day, too, don't forget, conservative church, right? Was pray, hope, and don't worry.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Yeah, it's very fucking, it's very Hakuna Matata.
Pray, hope, don't worry, you're going to hell.
Yeah. And a lot of people, in the First World War, a bunch of people from the community were sentenced to military service.
Sentenced to military.
Well, I mean, you have to go.
Yeah.
And it's
Conscription.
he was a teacher, and he was spiritual director, whatever. And at first he was left behind, and then he was drafted, And he was assigned to the 10th Medical Corps in Naples, and due to his health, he was continually discharged and recalled on the 16th of March, 1918. He was just declared totally unfit for service. Complete wreck. And, he started exhibiting the stigmata, and people started... He was very embarrassed by it.
Right.
He would cover it up, and, he was really, really, really embarrassed by it. And
It started happening when he was, like, in the military or just, like, in these moments of...
it was around the end of the war, the First World War.
And how old is he?
And he's about 23, let's say,
Soldier, where were you hit? Well, religiously.
And he's getting into, it's not just that, there's prophecy and stuff going on. There's instances of...
he's prophesying?
Yeah, and there's healing alleged to have happened. Bilocation, familiar with that?
Being in two places at once?
Correct.
And having sex with whatever gender.
Hey, all right.
Extraordinary abstinence from sleep and nourishment. That was, probably part of the reason why you're having prophecies is you're not eating anything.
That's part of the reason you bleed at anything, too. Is
Yeah.
you're dehydrated and malnourished.
Yeah.
Oops, I scraped myself on a desk and now I'm bleeding.
Yeah, and there's a reason it's not scabbing up.
Yeah.
Padre Agostino recorded one instance in which Padre Pio was able to subsist for at least 20 days on only communion wafers without any other nourishment.
Oh, okay.
Just the body of Christ, dude. That's all you need. Come on.
Light cakes.
That's all he needs.
And so the other thing is that, they say there's a frequent
Those are good wafers.
phenomenon attributed to stigmata cases where they say that the wounds smell sweet,
Yeah.
like flowery and stuff. Like it's
Cool.
like pleasant, when it should smell like you, Aaron. And he's like he becomes more and more well known. Word travels.
Remember when before this, he's like, I want a kind of serious...
Yeah, it was kind of
Well, he
philosophical.
threw that out the window. And
The
he's
show has cum and piss in it.
now it does, doesn't it? Asshole. So he's becoming known. He's
I'm
becoming
such a good Christian, dude.
He's becoming a celebrity. People are going to him for advice. They want to deliver their confession to him personally. He's being sought out, and it's bringing people to like this little fucking town that's like nowhere, But it's not as if like he's not being flashy about it. Like he wears gloves. It's like
Well, how many priests wear gloves?
they're fingerless gloves too. It's pretty
Oh,
tight.
like dice clay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like...
Hey, I'm the cool priest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not flashy, but it's kind of pretty flashy.
It's pretty good stuff.
This priest's pretty metal.
Yeah.
They said that he could read souls, he could bilocate. He said he can communicate with angels, and he could work healings before they were even asked of him. Some people said.
Kind of like a Dr. Manhattan type of scenario.
It really kind of is, man. And
He could work healings before anyone asked.
yeah, so like if anything went right, he got blamed.
I'm on my way to the priest. Oh, we're good. I didn't
Right.
even have to get there. This guy is a natural.
So in it's actually he experienced the pain of the wounds long before they actually showed up. So in 1911, he wrote to Padre Benedetto, and he said, last night something happened which I can neither explain nor understand. In the middle of the palms of my hands, a red mark appeared about the size of a penny, accompanied by acute pain in the middle of the red marks. The pain was more pronounced in the middle of the left hand, so much so that I can still feel it under my feet. I can feel some pain. And then he talks about, he thinks one day he's going to have the marks of Christ on him. He writes that to another priest. And he points out, he uses unrecognized passages from a book by the stigmatized mystic Gemma Galgani. And his friend Padre Agostino in 1915 is like asking kind of specifics. And he's like, when are you first experiencing these visions? When did you get the stigmata? When did you feel the pain of the Passion of Christ? Like the scourging, the crown of thorns, all that stuff. And he basically answered that he even though he had them for a while, he begged God to take them away. Besides the pain, he was just he thought they were humiliating. He thought it was so embarrassing and humiliating. And it kind of went away, and then it came back 1918. And it stayed for 50 years until the end of his life. and it smelled like perfume, flowers, whatever. It never was infected. It never, killed him, obviously, until the year 1968, right? Pretty long fucking time to be eternally bleeding. And
it never get any. Never gets like they never got dirty. They never got sick from having open wounds all the time. Or I guess that's a miracle.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Women bleed all the time. They're fine.
Yeah, all month long.
Yeah.
What the hell are you talking
It's about time men step up to the plate and start experiencing the passion of women.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm an ally. Okay.
Yeah. Right. This guy's bleeding from like 20 holes every day. So
Are you saying women aren't experiencing anything then, John?
what is going on today?
So stupid.
We're trying to be serious, all right?
Are we?
This is the most serious we can be. It's built up,
Yeah.
It's just
What do you want us to do?
gotta release it.
Listen and shut up.
Good luck.
So he's in
50 years of stigmata.
Yeah, but I mean, in the early days, he's just like the embarrassment is the worst part of it. Like the pain, he's like, I'll take the pain.
They got the gloves, and,
Plus, like everybody's just like, if you're that devout, like it's almost like you do kind of like want, I think, the suffering of Christ.
Yeah, who else in the village?
Because you're meditating on it all the time, right? You're thinking about it all day. You're thinking about fucking just the suffering of Christ and everything else.
Yeah,
and so,
Giuseppe the fisherman doesn't get it because he's not in church all day.
He's got all those fish oils.
And so he's like, I wish to be inebriated with pain, but these outward signs which caused me such embarrassment and unbearable humiliation, the pain from that was so intense that I began to feel as if I was dying on the cross.
Huh.
Guys really thinks everybody's looking at him.
That's
Everybody's like, we don't even care if you bleed, dude. Shut up. I'm a woman. So, once made public, the wounds were studied by a number of physicians, some hired by the Vatican as part of an independent investigation. And some people in the Vatican straight up hated the guy. They were like, shut the fuck up and like stop ruining our scam, I think basically was the idea.
Yeah, is that why you think that they're always trying to throw water on it?
They do not want it because if there's any kind of charlatan, it poisons the company, right?
Right.
And
never mind the other scandals with the church.
Which wouldn't be found for forever.
But those aren't,
and hadn't been found.
Those aren't faking, spiritualness and religiosity.
Yeah.
That's just pure.
Well, those are the feelings of
good old-fashioned evil.
That's just pure
right,
evil.
but even then, right? Even if it was, it's the feelings of man.
Right.
This is straight up.
Right.
God is fake.
Right.
Right. If you fake stigmata, you're just saying the whole fucking thing is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's why a lot of times these guys dived all over it, just being like, "Fuck you, shut up." And by now, even then, parts of the church were advocating, some kind of secular approach to science and stuff, Sure. There is like, one of the guys from the Vatican is like, he's like, I think this guy is using carbolic acid and making the wounds himself on purpose. And there was a local woman that said that Padre Pio did buy 4 grams of carbolic acid in 1919, and
it's a good way. You get chemical burns. Probably those are harder to heal, and but if you're constantly dropping acid on a wound, it's not going to get infected.
Also,
it's interesting.
What kind of shop was this lady running?
No, she was just like a courier to go get into town to get it because they're out in the middle of nowhere here.
Okay.
But then other priests were like, we got that shit all the time. We had to sterilize syringes because people had like Spanish flu and shit.
Oh, okay.
So just because he was doing it, and later on, Padre Pio would go on to like found a hospital that was not based on faith healing and shit like that. Like it was like a proper hospital.
Sure.
So there was the idea too that like he could just. That is a chemical he could just actually need.
Right. It wouldn't
take
be,
care of
it wouldn't be absurd for him to be around it.
Right. So a lot of people said, that it was just that he just had it. He wasn't too thrilled about it, and
yeah, well, it's my cross to bear. You got to move on.
I mean, he was like he covered it. You didn't really want people to know, like, but word kind of spread. But he was just a guy that got up and he did mass, and he did confession, and he was just like a very, very, very committed priest. It's not as if he was just like fucking doing the fucking Stigmata show all day or whatever.
Yeah, it's like when he
You're
was
just
5.
joining me. It's 2:30 in the a.m. My alarm clock just went off, and this is the Stigmata show. I'm Padre Pio, and my guest, Mother Teresa. Out of sight.
But he was 5 when he like basically maybe decided when he wanted to be this guy. Not the guy with the
but a member of the
acid
clergy.
hands, but yeah, a member of the clergy. It's a lot easier to do that than play like shortstop for the Yankees, But you can make that your life goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stuff is just extensive meditation and hallucination from malnourishment.
Yeah.
Because he talked about like fighting Satan and stuff too.
Right. But that's a tried and true way of having a mystical experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is fasting, dehydration, solitude, and meditation.
Sweat
You'll get into a
lodge, yeah,
trance.
yeah.
Like people have been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, and it doesn't mean it's any less powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one way to get to it. I am interested. Maybe you're going to get to it, John. But what do you think? Are you going to get to that later?
Of course.
Can
yeah.
I? Okay. Well, I thought I'd ask now, but
That's good. You're working on the exposition. I like that. That's very good.
I'm learning.
So part of
This is my 97th podcast, and I do it 2 times.
I want to jump to the end right now. Can we do that? No. So another thing too here is that there's like you were saying about the Dresden thing.
Oh, right.
Right. Now consider this portion of history in Europe. That this guy 1890 whatever to 1968, right?
So what John is getting at, I was talking about, there's been, studies and documentation, like for example, the bombing of Dresden, or any sort of like period of time where people are going through a real horrific event. And oftentimes people look back on those times as the best times of their lives.
Right.
Because all pretense is dropped, the bullshit is dropped, and it's just you are looking out for each other,
Right.
and you are helping each other in the face of certain doom.
Mm-hmm.
Where for some people they may think that counterintuitive,
Mm-hmm.
like in post-apocalyptic scenarios that everything will just go Mad Max the road, but it seems like that's not the case. It seems like in real life, when things go south, people
Mhm.
come together.
And generally those are very small, isolated. It's when you stretch that over time, then the motivations change. But in those small moments, you're getting bombed for a week,
Right.
or then you strip away all of the
Right. But if it's like a dark ages of 100 years, then it's maybe a
right. Then
different
at
kind of
some
scenario.
point, you get a little skeptical or cynical, and
Right.
you go, "I'm gonna fucking."
Yeah. Saying a weekend in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a really hard time. But there was this other thing too that they say a lot of times the Stigmata cases really come up when there's a situation of like authority in the church going on, and it's like this weird kind of like it's a weird kind of like groundswell thing because a lot of the people that get Stigmata are low level.
Right.
Like this is just a priest, There was this woman out here in California. She wasn't even Catholic, and she was getting it. She's interviewed in that documentary, and she like starts with visions too, and it's like people coming down from ladders from the sky and stuff like that. It's like borderline alienish.
Yeah, that's all depends on time and place. I mean, what's the difference?
Right,
If you're on a
right.
boat in a lake, yeah.
And even there's other cultures that have nothing to do with Christ that have something like Stigmata going on. There's people there's cultures that have
Hand wounds.
hand wounds, bleeding, that are still mystical and stuff.
Right.
So it's like another like
Yeah,
Joseph Campbell question where it's
right.
like, what is the significance of the bleeding hands?
Right. Or wounds, open wounds that never fully heal but also don't kill you.
Right.
I mean, it's a physical representation of a mental thing that
Yeah.
with many people.
Yeah.
But
It's like I'd help with that, but I'm right in the middle of something.
yeah, no, I
My hands are full.
can't get coffee today. But there is a pattern they notice that there may often be more stigmata when there is some sort of when the leadership is not defined, and maybe there is a scramble, a readjustment of hierarchy.
Yeah, I think it's more of kind of like a stern authority issue, or like kind of like that. But also, this thing in his time when he develops it, it's right kind of like at this outbreak of World War I, which is like they call it like Europe committing suicide, basically, right? And his bleeding was seen as this kind of Jesus wept moment for the continent, But then that gets kind of fucking interesting because after the war, when he's just again like you never leave this place, right? You never leave.
And what's the part of Italy?
Yeah, the San Giovanni Rotunda or whatever.
Yeah,
It's the round part.
It's near it's it's near Foggia. You know where that is.
I do.
Yeah. Do you?
Yes.
It wasn't like near his family's farm or anything.
But it's some rural area.
It's very remote. You know what I mean?
Yet the church is there.
The church is there, and just a handful of them. It's, not very much, but then it becomes this place that people just go to. It's like a pilgrimage, from all over Europe, and
it's like some Swedish woman having sex with animals on a farm.
It's just like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I bet you she was tending to her flock.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And so he's offering himself as a victim for the end of the war. He's like, basically, you can kill me, and the war will end if that's a good deal. You can make.
He's saying that to God.
Yeah, and between the 5th and 7th of August of 1918, he has a vision in which Christ appeared and pierced his side. And then he gets
abused, becoming the abuser.
Yeah,
right. And
I learned it from you.
Gee, what gives, Jesus?
Hey, you're the last person I'd expect to do this.
Whoa.
Sorry, I didn't sleep for a while. It's just kind of messed up.
And he's now in this period like he's very dark. He's always crying. And he's like, God's forsaken me, and but like his outlook to the rest of the world is still pretty upbeat and stuff. But like privately, he's
tortured.
He's in bad shape. Yeah. And he had to like give up a confession that he was hearing, just because he just like
I gotta get out.
Came overwrought with pain and shit.
Wait, what do you mean he gave up a confession?
Somebody's in
the booth, and he's like, I gotta get out of here, dude.
Yeah, that sounds really 5 Hail Marys, a couple Our Fathers. I gotta go cry.
He's like, Jesus, I just got stabbed.
You got it, bad.
Who did it, Father? Christ. I know, but who did it? Jesus Christ.
I know it's bad, but come on. Secret save with me.
Hey, I mean, that's got to be really awkward if you're giving the confession and the priest runs out.
It's like, shit, am I going to hell?
I shouldn't have told anybody this.
He was visited in 1947 years later by Pope John Paul II before,
Dude?
He was even like a fucking anything in the church.
Oh, okay.
And Pio allegedly told him, you're going to ascend to the highest point in the church. And so this is the part that really fascinated me about Padre Pio, which I never really knew about, and I didn't think about because of obviously where he is and in the era he's in. But in the early part of the 1920s, there's kind of like some local fascists that get interested in Pio.
In Italy, you say?
Yes, and they kind of take to him around the time that the church is seeking to get rid of Padre Pio because they don't like the hype, I think especially from a lowly priest,
right?
And you got all these guys in their diamond hats and
it'd be
in the
like
Vatican.
It'd be like a carpenter saying he's the son of God.
Yeah,
exactly.
And who wants that?
Right.
Yikes.
So, it comes out some of these people that kind of march up. Right before the fascists really take over, there's kind of like a left wing, period, and when the fascists are, kind of on the back foot at that point, before they end up taking over, some of them like march up with their little flags and stuff like that, and Padre Pio comes out and gives them a benediction, and they're like, "Oh, you gave us the cross thing. That means he likes us or whatever." And so they kind of take to him, and then they're violent thugs. So when the church is threatening to remove him, They just show up with bats, and they're like, "You're not taking him out of here." And Padre Pio is like, "Listen, I'll go, but like, I can't stop these maniacs. Like, I'm bleeding to death." Like
Convenient.
So was Padre Pio into fascism? I don't know, man. I think maybe they grabbed him, and I think anybody kind of could grab him that wanted to.
Yeah. And also, fascism wasn't a bad word back then.
It wasn't.
It was just a new kid on the block.
Sure.
And if you're already in like a patriarchal authoritarian structure, fascism is just like another fucking.
But fascism also had led when I think they lost, the leftist party lost an election, and they had some kind of protest to it where they were going to march into town, and the fascists in this local area where Padre Pio was, fascists attacked them, and 10 people were killed. So it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that he would be too thrilled about. But also, it's one of those things where it's what is, expedient politically from the church, from everything, who knows?
Yeah.
His main thing is just that the church is all right, listen, we're not going to take you out of there then, but you are going to shut the fuck up. And we don't want you giving mass to regular people. We don't want regular people here getting you to confess their sins to you. We don't want you doing shit. We don't like you. We want you to shut up.
It seems like you're the real deal. We don't like that. Is that what they're saying?
They really are just I think they either they don't like it, or they don't like it and they're fueled by skepticism, or they just don't like it and they're acting like it's out of skepticism. Who's to say?
Right. Yeah, that's my question. I guess I'm a little unclear on that. Do they not like him because he's showing them up?
I think.
Do they not like him because they think he's fake?
I wonder if it's kind of what you would think if you were David Cameron looking at Boris Johnson. Does that make sense? You're here's this plucky little flashy upstart that's obviously going to be coming for my job soon by making all this noise. So I want him to shut the fuck up and go away. And I have the authority to tell him to do so because he's just a priest. So I think there's a lot of ego involved in it.
Okay.
Even though this guy is dude, I don't even know how to read.
All right.
Or I barely know how to read. I do know how to read, but
He gets blood all over the place.
yeah.
I think I ruined your paper, sir.
But you know what I'm saying?
I have a confession of my own.
But I don't
Yes,
think
I know what you're saying.
He allegedly doesn't want word to spread about it. He is embarrassed by it.
I mean, it's
it's not like he's fucking posting YouTube videos.
Yeah,
it's other people spreading the word.
But also, let's not the church. They're so unknown for snuffing out any sort of, thing they might think will question their authority. It's just the church doing what they feel is their due diligence.
Right.
Being all right, one more, drive him into the ground.
Yeah, there's also kind of this thing where, a lot of people start surrounding him in general, right? Because he develops a little bit of a cult, as would obviously happen, of course. How many people are bleeding Christ wounds,
He's got some fascists with bats or whatever.
But they're kind of doing it for political reasons.
Sure, of course. But still,
he's got his own people that are just there's a bunch of girls around him too, maybe, and some people are saying maybe he's not as fucking holy as he acts.
Shit.
But you don't also know if that's smear stuff or whatever. But there's this guy that is kind of the emissary between him and the growing fascist movement, that is an early biographer of him. And this guy is a fucking profile in waiting, dude, because this dude is what? Huh?
This dude is what?
He's
It's
what?
And huh?
So yeah, there's suggestions that there was basically clerical fascist overlay between the Padre Pio section of the church and whatever fascist movement was going on there. Brunatto is
they shared office space.
I don't know. I mean, I think because he protected them or they protected him, he might have been, but also I don't think he just didn't seem like the guy that wasn't going to complain about anything.
Right. I think it's. I don't think it's any sort of grand conspiracy, right? It's just
right.
Listen, man, you're here, and you kick some people out for me, and well, I'm not going to kick you out. I'm a church.
And
Well, the thing is, like, you can't really fucking have political enemies too. Like, if Giuseppe is a fascist and comes and gives his confession to you, you have to hear it.
Yeah,
And
that's the whole point.
then people can be like, well, he's fucking in there talking to him. It's like, yeah, that's his job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's his job.
And also, he's not complaining about. I mean, he's in the letters. He's kind of complaining that he's like, I wish I didn't have all these stigmatas. But he's writing that to the
I
church.
didn't have all
Yeah.
these stigmatas.
My
I shouldn't have all these
stigmata.
stigmatas laying around.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
But it's like, who's he going to complain about the fascists to?
Right.
The other fascists?
This guy that I'm really fascinated with, Brunatto, is Emanuele Brunatto.
This is the emissary guy you were talking about?
Yeah, he's the guy that kind of
What?
ran point for these kinds of things between the fascists and Padre Pio. He goes to Padre Pio and he is like a fucking con man. He was fucking over the military like during the war. He was selling shit on the black market. His parents couldn't control him when he was a kid. He's a fucking mess. Cheating on his wife. Just like a complete disaster.
Yeah.
And then he's just like traveling around being a total charlatan. And you read some shit about Padre Pio. And he's like, oh, I got to see what this is about, baby. So, of course, the Vatican version of what happens to Emanuele Brunatto is that he meets Padre Pio and turns his life around. Is that what happens? I don't know. I don't know.
What does he turn his life into?
Well, he becomes very, very, very close with Padre Pio.
Huh.
And he does a lot of stuff, like his backing, I guess, not, but it's just being like, oh, yeah, I'm friends with Padre over there. And it's like, he's a fucking poor priest. He's like a vow of poverty.
Right. Yeah,
This guy's out doing business shit.
He needs
during
12 pineapples
during
today.
the Second World War.
Right.
Yeah.
This guy is, I think, a huge fucked up scumbag
Yeah. he's
that
a colonel.
escaped justice. And I don't know what level of scumbag he was because of things that were attributed to him and other things that were attributed to him where you go, oh, he's not so bad in the Second World War. But there's a lot of stuff in Italian about him, and like with the Google Translate and everything, it's like it's a little. You get some glimpses where you go, huh? But there's a couple of very interesting things about Emanuele Brunatto. But after he goes and he meets
Padre Pio.
Padre Pio. He is, like enthralled with him, and he's supposedly renouncing all of his old con artist ways, and, he feels the touch of God, et cetera, et cetera. And, Padre Pio had been, a spiritual director before, and he was kind of took Emanuele on. Emanuele, you also have to assume, is a pretty silver-tongued guy.
Yeah.
And can get in there with whoever he may think. And if you're a con man, this guy literally used to work the curtain at shows. Like he was like another one of our circus guys.
Right.
Yes.
What is the best show on earth besides a guy bleeding the wounds of Jesus Christ?
Yeah. He's a sideshow. He's a,
He's not a sideshow.
freak.
He's the main
yeah.
show.
He's
Your
the-
main
the
stage,
attraction,
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
forget the fucking Gorilla Man and
Bearded lady.
Beer Lady.
And especially amongst the devout, who would you listen to more than a guy doing that?
Yeah.
He's not even trying to abuse his power.
Right.
But if you are friends with that guy and you show up and say, he said this, probably some people are going to fucking listen to you, especially if they're willing to, just get a glimpse of you waving out the window. People would travel miles and miles and miles and just come outside the wall of where he lived at the monastery and just be like, Padre Pio, Padre Pio. And then he would just, get out of his window and he'd wave his bloody hands.
I knew it was him because the blood.
Yeah.
It looks
People in town are selling, bloody pieces of cloth and stuff.
Of course.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really good shit.
I saw this. You probably saw it too. There was. I don't know if this was in Italy. I don't think it was in Italy. Oh, maybe it was in India, and there was a statue of the Buddha
Uh-huh.
that it started crying and having water come from its fingertips,
Uh-huh.
seemingly out of nowhere, and people they're freaking out, they're bottling the water and drinking it and selling it everywhere.
Yeah.
It turned out it was a leaky sewage pipe.
Well, that's how God works sometimes. He You close a sewer line and he opens.
Yeah, one sewer line closes and another opens.
Yeah.
People are drinking fucking sewage water.
Oh, this I'm puking today because of
the
God.
spirits in me.
Yeah.
I'm purging out the bad spirits. I've got the shit mata.
So this one of the guys that was sent from the Vatican and met this dude, and met this dude, Padre Pio, and investigated him. He was quoted as this, which sounds like the Vatican's jealousy. How is it a man who has no exceptional natural qualities and who is anything but free of shadows and defects has been able to build a popularity that has few equals in the religious history of our times? How does one explain the irresistible fascination exerted by this man of the faith with a weary air about him, with rough manners and a disagreeable voice?
What?
Yeah, they're like, this guy sucks. What's so great about him? It's like, well, besides the obvious?
Yeah. What would you expect?
So good.
And that was the point of the motion picture Stigmata.
I mean, if you showed up and it was fucking George Clooney was doing this, you'd be like, suck my dick, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're gonna say the same thing no matter who it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Disagreeable voice. Like, they don't even. That's just them twisting the knife that someone stabbed into the side of this man.
And that whole, what makes you so special thing is is straight up. It's Lucifer's gripe against humanity.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What's so special about them?
Yeah.
Why them?
It's such a, again, abused becoming the abuser, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
During the Second World War, this is one of the things that was attributed to him, was that allegedly he had prophesied that none of the bombs would fall in their town at all. And there was supposedly Allied bombardiers that saw a flying monk when they were going to bomb.
Hitbomb.com.
Yeah.
They saw a flying monk?
Flying monk with his arms outstretched, just saying, like, you cannot bomb here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they said okay?
Yeah.
Well, they're flying.
Ramming speed. Captain.
Yeah.
At the speed they're
And so
moving.
it's funny when you investigate things like this and you go to some of these sites and I'm like, oh, okay, flying monk, let's hear it,
Oh, look at these gifts.
And it's like,
I've heard of a flying nun. A flying monk?
During the Second World War, there was a bombardier from the RAF, and he saw a monk, and some reported it as being huge in size, and some said just man size, and just like his arms outstretched, saying like, turn around. And then the general said, there was a general that said so many people were coming back saying they saw the same thing. It's like, give me names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's on the record.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up.
It's all hearsay.
I'm reading the thing.
Here's the deal. No bombs dropped, and they attributed it to Padre Pio.
Maybe there's no reason to waste expensive bombs on a one-horse fucking town.
Yeah.
Maybe there's
Exactly.
Could you believe nobody bombed us here with all three of us here?
Yeah, there's no soldiers. How do they do it?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Please.
I hate that though. I'm reading this thing for their profile. It just says a magazine said. And it's like, what do you mean a magazine? You can name the magazine.
A magazine at the time. Huh? What?
People are saying.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying exactly. So that's kind of the thing is that like a lot of this stuff is you look at it whether you go like he's a total charlatan or like he's utterly miraculous. It's this weird thing where it's like when you look at his story, it's like, what does it say about you? It's a weird Rorschach test.
Oh,
Sure.
it's a mirror. of sorts.
Yeah,
A looking glass.
Because
that's way better.
It's not very overwhelmingly compelling when you get down to it. I mean, it is. I'm fascinated by his story for sure. Mainly because he's kind of a miserable old, unremarkable curmudgeon.
Right.
And a lot of people are just like swirling around him, like, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? And then there's people, using it for this political expediency, like this gentleman, Emanuele. And so he is traveling throughout Europe, and he's basically saying that Padre Pio is my money's going to go to him. And he's selling like bogus, like railway patents.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's got patents on shit. He's like, yeah, it's gonna work like this. See, And he's traveling throughout Europe in the middle of the war, just profiteering off all of this shit.
Oh.
And he's just still being a total con man, right?
Railway patents?
Yeah, and it's shit that just
I
doesn't
got
work.
so many patents. I got to get rid of them. What do you think?
There'll be doubled rails. There'll be like two rows of rails.
Fuck a monorail. It's a
This is a
quadrail.
Mono, not enough.
Try, still not enough. Quad,
Quad.
just enough rails.
It's a pincer rail.
It's a pincer movement.
Like this, I don't know who came up with this shit or how this guy got started into rail parts or like the motor company stuff.
Yeah,
like
one step at a time.
it's completely ridiculous. But yeah, he's going around selling this shit just in the midst of the war. He gets like a ton of money from France, and then he kind of gives all that money. He was also actually trying to keep really good relations between France and Italy pre-war. This guy,
Wait, the priest.
No, Emanuele
Emanuele.
Brunatto. Yeah,
This guy's how much power is it?
he's just a mover and a shaker, man. You know, he's just kind of a con man, and then he's going around like almost at the supposed behest of this guy, but he's still
Right.
he's kind of doing his other shit, and maybe he's cleaned up his act, and maybe he's actually kind of like become even more sociopathic.
Yeah, he's
and
just
foxy.
gotten way better. He's cleaned his act up in the spirit of
Right. Yeah.
better con.
Exactly. It plays better.
Yeah. The he was described as a con man of great talent,
Huh.
infinite imagination, world-class enterprise, chronic liar, ruthless extortionist, and an incorrigible double dealer.
That's the recipe.
Yeah. And he might have been just straight up into it, or he might have just saw the opportunity, and it might have been, half you're lying to yourself and really being the other. And
Yeah.
he wrote one of the first biographies, Padre Pio. At the time, he was still alive, and he, he fought for Padre Pio when he was under house arrest and stuff like that, and it made the church have to be like, all right, well, he can do some masses because they just wanted to hide him. They made him hide. And, it was like he kind of like angered the fascists to be like, hey, you need to go over to this fucking church and get this guy like some of his shit back. And they're like, all right, he can do like the small church masses or he can do these people's confessions.
And they wouldn't excommunicate him?
No.
So, that's interesting.
They couldn't take this guy out of the church because these fascists were like, come and get him.
Right.
They probably figured, that would
Look
blow it up.
worse. Yeah, more attention.
So when he's basically under house arrest, Brunatto also just gets dirt on all of these clergy and takes it to the Vatican, and he's like, I'm going to publish this. And then they lighten up the restrictions on Padre Pio,
All
right?
right, all right.
Well, you made a good point there, kid.
So he puts himself at the head of a company that does locomotive patents, and
Traits.
he raises millions of dollars that is supposed to, with Padre Pio's backing, supposedly,
Mhm.
that it's going to come back to the church, right? And he sets himself in Paris, and he goes around the continent, and he's just living high on the hog, baby. And he's supposed to be selling patents to the governments of Europe, right? And the one attempt to make these patents turn into a real thing turns out to be a total shit show,
Uh-huh.
right? And he keeps it going for several years. It's just fake. It's just total snake oil shit.
This count as blood money?
And he's just like, we're right around the corner, man. You know what I mean? It's like your gym that's going to open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a couple more days.
We're almost there. We just need, just patience and also 20 more bucks.
It wouldn't hurt.
Padre Pio, of course, doesn't get shit out of this, right? The investors lose everything. Brunatto ends up spying for fascist police. And then during World War II, he's just black market again.
Yeah.
Collaborationist. He's selling rations.
Oh,
Yeah. He's keeping the German army supplied with French wine, champagne. And he just has the brilliance to take his fuckloads of money and throwing it into a charitable fund for Padre Pio to build this hospital. And it's just like, this foresight that goes, no matter which way the war goes, the church is going nowhere. Man.
Yeah.
Well, it's the bread and butter.
You know,
Yeah,
it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And then the charity is like, all right, well, you can't say this guy's a collaborationist, you know, with the Nazis and stuff like that. It keeps him out of jail, and it's like 3.5 million francs or something like that. And it has this
in
crazy
the 40s?
Yeah.
Jesus. Nice.
It has this crazy thing that's like, despite the collaboration of the Catholic Church at large with fascism, which gives them the Vatican, right, with Pope Pius. I think that was the exchange. Was basically
Give us Vatican City.
Give us Vatican City. We'll leave Mussolini alone, and
we'll look the other way on a lot of shit.
But even despite that, the fault, like the failures of authority in these countries throughout Europe, big countries, Italy, Germany, it improves the standing of the church.
Of course, because they go, look, see what happens.
Oh, there's one that never goes away, right? It's stronger than ever.
It proves their legitimacy even more.
Yeah.
That they outlast the state.
So there's sightings of Padre Pio more and more. That's what they're saying the RAF shit was about. They're saying the Flying Monk was about. Was that there was like religious devotion went up. People were seeing the Virgin Mary more.
Right.
There was all this stuff that happened in the wake of this. Letters to Padre Pio went from 9,000 a year in 1939 to more than 20,000 in 45.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean,
that's 20,000 a year.
It makes sense,
That's
though.
so many letters.
Yeah.
As the war becomes more desperate.
Yeah.
People-
And he
Yeah,
kept
of
cutting himself with the letter opener, so he's just bleeding all over these letters.
shit.
Fuck.
Still got the Stigmata.
That's how you knew the letter was from him when he wrote back. It's
Yeah,
just kind
he kissed it in blood.
Yeah.
Sincerely yours, Padre Pio.
smear.
So this fucking crazy thing happens too, is that because he's got this like improved standing, Padre Pio, he gets a fuckload of the Marshall Plan money to help finish this fucking hospital. And like I said, like to his credit, he does make it like not about the church. It's not faith healing. He's like, it's going to be state of the art, just a fucking secular medical hospital, you know? And
to be fair to the church, you know, there was not a lot of faith healing. I mean, the first hospitals were church run, and they
right. No, I'm just saying like it wasn't. You would think it would be that way.
Well,
maybe.
I think faith healing is kind of a new.
Yeah,
it's a new phenomenon.
Definitely, yeah.
Faith healing is something. It's a when you have the luxury of faith healing because real healing exists.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so then this thing is like now the Catholic Church is like, you know, man, we fucking pushed this guy way out. And they act like they never tried to excommunicate him. And they bring him in harder than ever.
Our great friend, Padre Pio.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a hospital. You hear about this?
What took you so long?
Now he's this great advertisement for the church. And now he's all over magazine covers. Like fucking, you know, fucking, it's the 50s now, you know? And he's like fucking movie stars are going to meet him and like getting their picture taken with him and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, he's still got people that fucking hate him within the church, until you know it comes to John Paul II, who we met, you know, for confession in 1947, and he's like, you know, a more liberal kind of priest, you know, and they do believe in more secularism by this point in the Catholic Church. So then they're like, we kind of do need like kind of more shocking saints. Right. So he was the one that started like fast tracking Padre Pio for sainthood. Yeah, he was like, we got to shake things up a bit here. Like, let's make it kind of a superstar.
It's been a while since we've had a hit.
This guy's been on the bench the whole time.
It's new Coke,
right? Yeah. So yeah, he's you know, he's. You kind of like all the shit about Emanuele Brunatto and the fascists and stuff like that. That all kind of goes away. Nobody wants to talk about that shit at all. You know what I mean? And I never knew about it until I started digging into him because I always thought he was a fascinating character anyway. But it makes so much sense that like, you know, this corner of Italy and like, you know, him being, you know, in if you've never been to like a really, 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 really Catholic country, it's like I was in Ireland like in the 80s, 90s, whatever, like when I was a little kid, and I remember it was more of a Catholic country than just an Irish country.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like people were just so about mass, and you know, every fucking house has a cross, and like everything. It's just like it permeates every part of life.
Well, and because in these countries, I spent some time in Spain where it's like, duh, yeah, super Catholic. And when the church has been there for 1,000 years, it's permeating.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of hard not to when it's been there. Like your parents went there, your grandparents went there, their parents went there.
Right,
their parents
exactly,
went there.
yeah.
Yeah, you think the Beatles reverberate through music 50 years later?
Right.
Imagine a church that people went to every fucking week
for 17
1,000.
yes.
Yeah.
It's
and feeding people. They have buildings.
Yeah.
Like there's a permanence of it
Yes.
that you can't ever wash away.
Yeah.
So they do some shit too. They they exhume them like 40 years later.
No.
Yeah, and they the chin is perfect.
The chin is perfect.
The chin is
Oh, I
perfect,
want a
and
chin
his
this guy
his
had.
body's in great shape. So that fucking bottom teeth up, he's a fucking zombie wreck.
Yeah.
And so they put him in a glass
The
case
chin.
with a fucking a plastic mask on to make him look like him. And so they put him in a glass case for people to come see. And they have kind of this extravagant fucking gold plated shit around and stuff like that.
The way
And
he
so-
would have wanted it.
Wait.
Exactly. So the people that go and see him are they're like, oh yeah, he wouldn't have liked this at all.
So did he became a saint?
He did under John Paul II.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The sequel.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing, man. There's this woman from Poland that was the best friend of John Paul II, and was fucking really, really horribly experimented on by the Nazis. Yeah, for years. And she survived, and she saw babies get killed and stuff, and she was just like, I was able to live through this, and I'm going to become a doctor. And, she knew the Pope before he was the Pope, and they were really good friends or whatever. And she got cancer, and she was given 18 months to live. And John Paul asked Padre Pio to heal her, and she didn't have a trace of cancer.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I think that was the obviously extra personal touch that made John Paul II be like, is this guy not a saint?
Well, he
What are
did
we
have
doing
a
here?
hospital. Did he?
Yeah,
Or
well,
did he bring
yeah.
him to the
But they were
hospital?
saying inoperable, fucking done deal, over with cancer. I don't care if your friend's the Pope. You know what I mean? They're like, it's done, baby.
Yeah.
You fucked up. And
Maybe it was all those Nazi experiments that gave her a healing factor.
oh yeah, the Nazis cured cancer years ago. What are you, crazy?
That's probably what it was. Makes sense.
But yeah, it was. On the Stigmata phenomenon, I think it could be a just total trance psychosomatic thing. I think it could be people in a state of meditation, possibly hurting themselves, having absolutely no recollection of it. I think it's not impossible for the body to do amazing things
And
when you're in that trance-like state.
Yeah.
So, it's like, is that science or is it magic? It's gamma radiation. Is it science we just haven't discovered yet?
Right.
Probably. So I think there's something to that. I think somebody would have found, and some of these people do fake it. Don't get me wrong.
Right. It's like the UFO thing.
There's proven
99% is people being retarded.
Yeah.
And then there's, the 1% where it's like, shit, well, what the fuck is that?
Right.
Is putting carbolic acid on your hands a form of penance akin to standing on a pole for years on end?
Right. Or pole dancing.
Yes. I mean, so there's a lot of ways for him to, whatever idea he felt he had to reach and live.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like the guy, And now at the time of his death,
Well,
at the time of his death, there's no scarring. There's no visible scarring on his hand. You can go see the body, and there's no scarring there. These things bled for years,
Yeah.
And they healed up when he died?
Well, he's out of blood.
Yeah, there's no scarring on the body. No visible scarring on the body.
Just,
Probably because there were no wounds.
uh-huh.
Could be.
wasn't even his. He just every day he put blood on his hands.
Yeah, and nobody thought to wipe it up. Is that really your hypothesis? That sucks.
What's yours, God?
I didn't say that.
I don't have a hypothesis either. I'm open book. I'm open to suggestion.
So I mean, six, I think different people examined him. Some of them twice. Some of them from the church. Some not. And their conclusions were like,
fuck, I don't know.
some were like, yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Some were like, I believe it's real and it's God. And then some people were like, I believe he's faking. And
I can guess which of those doctors was which. If I just...
No, the Vatican ones were actually probably the meanest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because don't forget, they tormented this guy too.
Sure.
You know?
But also they made him a saint. Well, that was
a whole different crew, you know.
That was the new church.
Most of the time they fucking really hated this guy.
Right.
But that's also, that's common throughout a lot of the Jesuit order. The really selfless, live like Jesus people.
Sure.
They fucking hate those guys.
Well, yeah,
because they got diamond
they're
hats on.
actually fucking doing it.
Yeah. They're walking the walk. So, I mean, the Jesuit order, I think, as an entire branch of the church has almost been excommunicated several times.
And now we have our first ever Jesuit Pope.
Right. And, I mean, the Jesuits were, always the
First
ones...
not from Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Jesuits were always the ones that were, first on the streets for, peacekeeping stuff in Northern Ireland. A lot of the back channels from the IRA to the British government, Jesuit priests...
Great school system.
Really put themselves out there. And they were, the guys that were living super poor, just, in some shitty robe. And, they would go on, well, my uncle, my dad's brother was, he would go on, some fucking weird, pilgrimages where they would, go up and, camp out, up in the hills and shit. And, he's you just go and fucking listen to these guys talk and, fucking cook some shit around the fire and then go home.
Yeah.
Sounds
great.
Yeah, it sounds like a nice time.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's all these guys have time to do is bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And read.
And think.
So, so they have, they have some shit to say.
I don't like the fullbacks on Celtic this year.
And it's, don't get me wrong, every branch of the church has some fucked upness.
Yeah, is it a organization?
Right.
Then it's got some corruption in it. But
yes, exactly.
I think there's something to be said for some of the ritual and pageantry and
the meditation
of Catholicism and certainly Jesuit.
Absolutely.
Because they seem to be walking the walk a little bit more.
Yeah, they definitely were. I think they just the minute you really are gonna commit to a vow of poverty, it becomes kind of a different game, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All you can have is a robe and a pen and a Bible.
Yeah.
You have 4 things.
You can't eat the Bible.
An iPad, probably.
They just need to let these guys get married again.
Yeah.
And that was a money thing too. That's
Right,
about the vow.
yes.
Because they could not pass money along down.
They couldn't fucking leave their life's money to their families.
Yeah.
That's why they made it a vow of fucking chastity.
Yeah.
And so it's their own greed led to this fucking pedophilia epidemic.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Hey. Whoa. Hey.
You said it.
You said it, man.
You said it, man.
Yeah, Do you have an idea? Do you have an inkling of what you think it's from?
With him specifically?
No, I mean the phenomenon in general. I mean all these people in this documentary, which I do recommend, Stigmata, Wounds of Mystery is what it's called. I think it came from the Discovery Channel. And it is fair. There's people talking about how it could be faked and stuff.
Right.
And then they just talk to people that actually have it.
Right.
And they kind of follow them around. They talk to their doctors. Because there's 12 or 13, 14 people living with it. And another interesting thing about the phenomenon is, as time has changed is that it used to be 7-to-1 men to women.
All right.
And now it's 5-to-4.
Uh-huh.
Which is fascinating. And it's expanded outside of Catholicism.
Which makes sense.
I think, depending, we were talking a little bit about schizophrenia and the voices in your head.
Right.
And in the Western world, the voices are paranoid and aggressive and scary sometimes. Whereas in more traditional cultures, the voices in your head with schizophrenia are happy or trickster or
right.
more positive. So I think and I think it's documented in other cultures. Whenever you have some sort of like religious ecstasy, your body can manifest certain things depending on the culture that you're in. So, if you're a Hindu or whatever, I'm just gonna say any other religion, you may manifest something that's more in line with the mythology of that culture. And I think people non-Catholics getting stigmata is probably it's so popular that it's just a way for it to manifest.
Right.
So I mean, don't get me wrong, 99.9% of all cases are total bullshit, fake people doing it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
For the other 0.1%, I don't fucking know.
I think there's evidence of it being a psychosomatic thing.
It would have to be, unless you're going to say that God's doing it.
Well, no, you could also do it to yourself intentionally.
Oh, I see. Okay.
In the name of God.
Well,
yeah.
hey, but also, isn't that God doing it?
Mm-hmm.
But I think a part of that is that it's obvious to me because it is in the hands and not in the wrists, right? It's like it's
because that would be suicide.
Well, no, they say that true crucifixions, the nails were driven through the wrists and
to support the body,
because your body weight cannot be
You
supported
can't.
by the bones in your hands.
but
But if you do it through the wrists, you can hang from your hands from across.
and the vision of suffering you see of Christ throughout your life, it's in the hands though.
Right.
So that's why I think it's memory or whatever. If it's happening to your body naturally through some kind of thing we don't understand through, whatever. I mean, the human body does incredible things that the mind has control over.
But there's no reason why the hands would be more prevalent than any other place unless it's a societal
condition. Right. Like you said, psychosomatic based on some pre-existing narrative.
Mm-hmm.
It's based,
In my head, picture of Christ on the cross has nails through his hands. Therefore, when I manifest it subconsciously or whatever, it happens in my hands.
Right.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll find out in the future, I suppose, as we educate more people about the physics of torture. Will stigmata show up in the wrist?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think that was one of the things with the Shroud of Turin back in the day, like when they were testing it, they were trying to get like DNA off the Shroud of Turin, and they're like, "Oh, you see, the Shroud of Turin is actually accurate because the stakes were driven through the wrists in the Shroud of Turin."
Mm-hmm.
But also, Shroud of Turin's bullshit,
Yeah, because it's a painting.
right?
Because
His face wouldn't look like that.
No, it'd be 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
Because it would go over his face like this.
Right.
It wouldn't be just like a fucking direct. His fucking face would look gigantic and insane.
Yeah, it looked like silly putty.
Who is this
Yeah.
God?
Like fucking Mr. Potato Head. Something like, ain't that Jesus for you?
Oh, wow, this guy can do a lot.
Isn't it like possibly like a Da Vinci thing too? They've said like something like that.
Yeah, I mean, because it's from around that time period. They've like carbon dated the fucking linen and stuff.
Right.
But it's cool to think about.
It's just some guy who fucking just made a thing and left it somewhere.
Isn't that history? Isn't that everything?
Some guy
Some
that
guy
made a thing and left it
That's
somewhere.
That's all.
Oh,
it
you've
is.
heard it here, folks.
Yeah. If the guy was alive, he'd be like, "What are you talking about? That's my brother."
Hey, give me that back.
That's my thing. I left it there.
I left it.
I was here.
I made the thing.
I was here.
It's a joke. It's a shroud.
Gotta play that. That's another one. We gotta play all this.
Yeah.
Catch everybody up with all these
Yeah, we'll have
dumbass
to have a
references.
media episode
Jesus,
soon.
yeah.
I know.
But it is such a compelling phenomenon, right? Like because it's
just over the fucking top.
and
It's-
and like
desperate.
and it, again referencing the motion picture Stigmata from 1998
It's-
or 99. End of Days is the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way.
Mm.
The point of Stigmata in the
End of
movie.
Days? I think that came way later, man. Isn't that one of the ones that got banned because of 9/11?
Was the end
Got
of days.
postponed or something?
Nah,
No?
I think it was pre 9/11, dude. It doesn't have anything to do with 9/11. I mean, it has nothing to do.
No, I'm thinking of the one that was 6th, whatever.
I think 9/11 he did. Yeah, it was the one where his collateral damage. No, that was like a few years later. I don't know.
Yeah. who gives a
Collateral
shit?
Damage, I think that was with Bruce Willis. Totally could be wrong.
Mark Wahlberg?
Tears of the Sun? Tears of the Sun. End of Days. Arnold is fighting the devil. He comes to New York or Los Angeles. I don't know.
Same idea.
Gabriel Byrne is the devil has threesome with a mother and daughter.
Hot.
It's super fucking hot. But also Gabriel Byrne is the Catholic investigator in Stigmata, investigating Patricia Arquette, who shows the Stigmata. She's like a party girl from LA or whatever.
That's hot too.
And I think a lot of these Stigmata cases, save for Padre Pio, are people, well, I guess all of them. They're all very, kind of nobodies.
Yeah.
And such as in the movie, that's the point of the Stigmata, is it kind of like also Star Wars Force Awakens. See it on Disney Plus. Is that it can be anybody. It's democratic. It is for
Last Jedi. Not Force Awakens.
I said see it on Disney Plus. So yes, Force Awakens.
No. But the thing, what you're saying, the vibe of the movie was from Last Jedi, and it can be anybody.
Yes, and I would say Force Awakens as well.
More so Last Jedi.
But you're probably right.
No.
Does everybody know you like Star Wars?
Yeah, they do now.
But you don't have to be of some special lineage. You don't have to be a member of the church. You don't need to be wearing a diamond hat.
Yeah.
And they get into the whole like Gospel of St. Thomas thing, like the Dead Sea Scrolls in the movie. It's one of the Gospels that's left out of the Bible on purpose because it's kind of like the church doesn't shit kind of story.
Right.
So maybe there's something to that. Maybe it is God saying, "Hey, this whole church thing has gone out of control."
I don't know if it's that or
I'm just saying, I don't.
I know you don't think it's that,
I'm
but
playing Jesus advocate.
But I'm saying it's it does seem like a ground up, kind of rebellion.
Yeah.
Whether it's people faking it or whatever,
Right.
taking it back, I guess, from kind of
Right.
the
Because the Pope's not getting Stigmata.
he's not.
There's never been a pope who had Stigmata.
I think there was popes that faked it actually way back. Yeah, there was some.
Yeah, way.
There was some.
way
There was some that were I think known to kind of.
I think there was popes that were doing all sorts of shit, dying, getting fished out of
Yeah,
rivers.
well,
Yeah, some of them were chicks.
Yeah. Hey, all right.
Pretending to be.
Pretending to be chicks.
Yeah, weren't some of them out on the street? No, that was a Roman emperor.
right.
Yeah, no. I think there was one woman disguised as a man that was a pope. at
Well, there
one
was
point.
around the time of the Cadaver Synod. There was right after that reign.
She pope?
There was a family. There's a mother and a daughter who got involved in the church and had basically
pulling the strings.
pulling the strings for a couple decades.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that is the fake woman pope.
I don't. I think there was one that was straight up, like fucking nuns on the run,
Oh, sick.
just like in disguise. You know what I mean? Straight up like, oh, I'm the pope.
Hey.
I'm the pope.
Hey, what's
Oh.
up, you dudes?
What's up, guys? Doing guy stuff? Chicks, right? We don't need them. We're the priests.
You guys seen any little dudes around here? You're
Can anybody help me open this jar of pickles? Jesus Christ.
Hey, all right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. It is a fascinating phenomenon. I really do like that documentary. That was kind of like what got me into it again. Like my dad had told me some stuff about Padre Pio when I was growing up, and I was like, oh, that's fucking interesting, man.
Yeah.
And then I saw this documentary when I was in Ireland, and it just starts out so cool because it's just that guy in a hoodie walking down the street in like a regular Scottish neighborhood, and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? And then he's like going in, and he's like,
Peeling off his
I
bandage.
got Christ wounds, dude. And
So
you're
like, the
"Whoa!"
90s had some great fucking like pseudoscience documentaries,
Mhm.
and they were just so perfectly attuned to getting teenage boys interested in it.
Yeah, totally.
Without, I mean, not like it's not flash and it's not that's not what I mean. But I mean, it's just like really appealing to that kind of like, but what if curiosity that at least I
Yeah.
know that I and a lot of my friends we had growing up was like,
Yeah.
oh, but what if Atlantis was like, one of those kind of things. So like,
Yeah.
those I will definitely check it out. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
and like there's guys that had wrote books about Stigmata and stuff in there. And one of them is like he's this dude, and he's obviously like the thing is that like those documentaries too, they take any clip out of your mouth, they could totally skew your opinion of the entire phenomena.
Yeah.
And like they're like, but they get to the one guy that's like written the book about it, and he's just kind of like, yeah, he's like, I don't really agree with it on like a scientific level, and he's like, I also don't agree with it on the theological level because I just feel like, what would be the reason for God to do it?
Right.
And he's like, I'm not saying that they're all faking it. I'm saying like it could be happening to them, but like, he's like, for it to be strictly divine, he's like, I really wouldn't know what the meaning would be,
I think that's the
I
strongest.
thought that was pretty cool.
That's
Then
the
there's-
strongest argument against it.
He was arguing against it.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. The strongest argument, like, I want to argue against it based on logic and medicine.
Right.
But the strongest argument against it is you
Who
have
is this for?
It's the same thing with the Virgin Mary and the toast.
You're on the. You
It's
have,
like,
you have to go on their level.
why?
They have this other asshole in it.
Why?
It's really good where he's like, here's what I could do, right? He's like, I gotta have a syringe in this hand, right? I'd be like, oh look, here's me stigmata, right? He like squirts blood on his hand, and he's like, and while I'm doing that, right, you're looking at this, and it's like sleight of hand. He's like, I squirt it underneath in the same. You're like, you doing a magic trick right now?
Yeah, he is. That's a lot of religion.
Do you also think that we don't know that we can wipe it off and tell it's fake?
Turn around. Just turn around real quick.
It's the worst explanation for how
Is this your
stigmata could be
card?
fake.
They needed to fill 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got this guy with a tiny syringe. He's like, meanwhile, I've dropped it, right? Like, you don't even know I had a syringe in the first place. You're like, shut up, you idiot! Really dumb.
Your favorite number's 4.
I was angry at how stupid it was. I was like, sleight of hand with a little syringe
Right,
full of blood? Where did you get the syringe full of blood?
Well, I can't tell you that, mate.
That's, never tell. A good magician never reveals his tricks.
You want a syringe? I can get you a syringe. With blood.
Oh, blood, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A positive, B negative.
A negative, whatever you want.
I want to take a quick break so I can find this thing, and then we'll return for one little tidbit of dumb shit.
Oh,
Wouldn't that be lovely?
thank Christ.
All right, we'll be right back. And we're back. Aaron, you just did some great stuff. This is from the album Sickening Digital Rainbows.
Sickening Digital Rainbows.
Yeah, by Venta Proto.
What?
This is a
Vento Proto 6?
Venta Proto. This is a friend of mine. Shared this with me. Chris. This is the song Asexual Dream Team.
Mm.
It's not us, is it?
You like that shit?
You can probably turn it up a little bit, unless it's going to be crazy. It's supposed to sound like this?
Like this shit. Here's general nullification. This is more your speed, Aaron.
Oh, that.
I'm catching up. I'm catching up myself.
This is an Italian guy.
I can tell, yeah, from the
Staccato style.
I thought with these song titles and everything, I was like, gotta be Japanese.
Right.
Because, I mean,
Was it in
everything
Japanese?
sounds like the name of like a Japanese porn clip where you're like, what did you say, dude?
Yeah.
You know?
Asexual Dream Team.
Asexual Dream Team. Yeah, absolutely. This is Endless Incapacitating Discomfort, the name of the record.
Oh, okay, yeah, that checks out.
This is Post-Masturbatory Suicide. Here we go.
That's what he was playing.
It was.
No, that was totally different album. There's a lot of albums of this shit.
Yeah, it was another
Here's
nightmare cacophony.
here's Robot Arousal Experiment, right?
Huh.
Oh my god. If you're wearing headphones, it's fucking trippy.
Yeah, this is a good stereo.
Nice
right
binaural
here.
beat.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron,
It's a binaural beatdown.
here's one you would like. It's a bilocation beatdown.
Hey.
Whoa.
This is called Glacial Facial. Total disaster. Just what are you saying?
I feel like this is what the guys in scanners listen to.
This is Any di Masturbazione.
Oh, that's how you know it's Italian.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? Anti di
Anna di Masturbazione.
Okay.
Looking for vomit gore videos on the internet.
Looking for vomit gore videos.
This is compulsive masturbation is ruining my life.
This album got released?
Yeah, on the internet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm the most intimate fantasy of your sister.
Sounds a lot like...
Is this a band or one guy?
It sounds a lot like the
This
last
is definitely one guy.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like masturbation's ruining my life.
Yeah, I'm really picking up a lot of the influences from I'm looking for vomit gore videos on the internet.
Yeah.
It's really a love letter to the original.
Well, then closing out the record. 20 songs later. Well, This is the single. This is excessive vaginal wetness.
This isn't the signal. It
is a signal and a single.
This is the signal and the noise.
Now,
That's right.
This
the
is getting
closer.
sent out to alien civilizations.
Yeah, and they're on their way.
Yeah. Oh shit! Is that fucking irresistible vaginal wetness?
Wow, I've been masturbating too much.
Or they love to just go to voicemail.
Yeah. Oh shoot! Is this guy again? Don't pick up.
This
no,
is
the
the
voicemails all
closer,
wet.
which is she makes a pap test while my best friend watches an insane hentai on my computer.
She makes a pap test.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Why do the words have more beats than the music?
I don't know.
It's a statement.
I guess it's a.
I just really like this guy's very not almost, just straight up depressing song titles. Like, it's just a real bummer, man.
Yeah, it's definitely made by one guy.
It's such a bummer. It's so bad. Post-masturbatory suicide? Come on. It's great.
I mean,
We've all been there.
it's a refractory period. It's not a lifestyle.
It's not a refractory eternity.
Yeah. Come on.
Song of the lone boy who courts the retarded girl.
Oh boy.
This is that song.
Oh.
It kind of fits.
I mean, a lot of
It's
these
just what I
fit,
pictured.
but
This is what I
they're not
pictured.
good.
Song of the lovers who throw up on each other.
No.
It
Nope.
doesn't fit at all.
Absolutely
Nope.
not.
Song of the girl who gives out her used tampons to her sweethearts as gifts.
Again, I know he's working through some sort of style here, but
Who is
it
this
doesn't
person?
match.
Who is this person?
Some Italian guy.
God.
Wait, it's not the priest, is
Should
it?
have nuked them too.
Is that the
Jesus
twist
Christ.
ending?
Come on, listen to this.
The twist ending is this is the priest.
Oh my
I'm
god.
getting stigmata in my ears.
Yeah, it's really, really bad.
Father?
I mean,
Song of the misunderstood artist who loves having a shit-stained diaper changed by prostitutes.
I wonder if that's about him. This is his song.
this album is just one sound repeated.
I think it's just. I think it's just his
Yeah, but
landline.
have you ever listened to it when you're stoned?
Yeah, man. I wish, but no, this is
You think it's good or bad?
no, it's bad.
There's nothing good
LOL, lovely online losers. That's a good song.
That's a nice title.
Now,
Finally,
this is the most.
he tries something.
This is back when they were way commercial.
This is when they sold out before they got indie.
This is their Target
This
commercial.
is when they were doing exclusively
Yeah.
stadium.
This is actually not bad. It sounds kind of like a weird like D-Res Vaporwave soundtrack. Like
Yeah,
you're walking through
yeah,
a mall in Tokyo or something.
Yeah, it's like the radio's not working,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to like something's coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah, trying stuff out.
He tried 2 notes.
yeah.
That was
But
featuring.
that was his experimental phase. He
Yeah,
went way
he's
hardcore
done.
after
He's
that.
way
It was
back.
featuring DJ Kimchi.
DJ Kimchi?
Oh, so that was all kimchi then.
Does this have DJ Down syndrome on it?
This is not.
DJ DS?
DJ Down syndrome. was
There's a
next.
terrifying cover of one of these where there's just like this guy in a business suit in the foreground, and then like some lady that's cut her wrist in the bathtub behind her, and she's waving like her bloody wrist.
We
Can you-
tried to
can you
make a
She
bring
might have stigmata.
Yeah.
You put that higher so the camera.
Wait, this guy's Japanese.
Yeah, but that's
not him.
It's not him, presumably.
He might be an immigrant.
I mean, yeah, he could be. Could be an Italo.
Oh wow, yeah. So he's
Japo Italo. Japitalo.
Japanese. Now this is Fly Me to the Moon.
Wait, what?
No.
Okay. See, this is way
More
better.
like it.
All right, now
This is way better.
It is
John,
way
this
better.
Is way,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah, it's still nonsense.
Yeah.
it's a
Utter
It's an
shit.
attempt at
Yes.
something.
It's a huge bummer, huh?
I mean, this
This is much nicer compared
this
to the
is
other
just
very nice.
bad.
in
which
all
is
things
fine.
considered.
Yeah.
I like this because it's just bad.
Yeah.
The other ones are like not even trying.
It sounds like the fake, the fake, like electronic music he makes in Brass Eye. You know, it's really just like supposed to sound like shit, and it sounds like this,
yeah.
but it's kind of charming.
I understand that you're.
Is he singing?
No, there's somebody. He took a
someone
real
else,
song and
yeah.
then fucked it up.
I understand the insecurity of like muddling your tracks, but this is another level of that.
Yeah, it's really really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is let's see what's on Dream Girlfriend.
It'd be great if there was just one track that was an actual song.
Yes.
Oh God,
That'd
Be
be a
really
great
funny.
twist.
Sensual Prostate Massage. You have that one, don't you, Aaron?
Every night.
On vinyl.
Have, own, am.
Better than an aggressive prostate.
This is Artificial Hymen. That's a good one.
Cybernetic hymen at your service. Not even.
This is
only your mechanic knows the difference.
this is what Barry hears on the phone in fucking Beyond the Black Rainbow.
This is
Very-
maybe his best track.
Barry,
You're not wearing your appliances.
That was actually okay.
Yeah.
But I don't mean good in any sense.
I mean, like, okay, computer.
The
But Radiohead.
the benchmark has been lowered.
Yes. Is it like you're getting a ice cold enema,
Yes.
and now the water is room temp,
Yes.
but you're still getting gallons of water forcefully shot up you.
It's pretty wrong. The there's one record that's just like nothing but bangers as far as the titles go.
Well, maybe that's the true art form. Is
Yes.
the title, not
Yeah,
the,
he's great at titles. The music, not his thing.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's-
that's what the performance is.
Yes.
The performance is this.
Because right,
packaging.
a normal a normal song title is the sound of
Right.
one note just grinding through your brain.
Asexual Dream Team is so dumb.
the,
What?
the medium is titles.
That's right.
The medium is titles, and the rest is just fax noises.
Yes. Exactly. I hope it's got somewhere. Did they get this?
Maybe there's some weird genius to it. Like if you play like
All of them at the same
if you
time?
put one album on one stereo system, and then another album on another, and another album on another, another album, and so you make it like an 8-track setup.
You get
and you
you
play
get
it-
a stigmata from it.
Yeah, in your soul. But you play them all at the same time, and maybe it makes like a whole symphony. But I highly doubt
I'm
it.
guessing that's not the case.
Yeah, probably
Does
not.
he have a song called like Symphony of Seamen?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a semen one. Let's see. Oh, this might be the one. Oh god, this is a nightmare. My underpants always get wet when I think about your hardcore cover with my shit.
Yeah, but what's the song title?
Oh god.
My underwear always get wet.
There's a scene in Trigger Happy where there's a guy. He's playing like a Swedish dude in the park in London, but he's from London. He's
Yeah,
faking.
no, it's a British guy.
And he goes up and he's wearing like a fucking. He looks like out of a Sherlock Holmes thing, and he's got like a pipe and shit. And he goes up to an old couple. And he's like, "I am practicing English with people in the park." He goes, "Please, when I go to sleep, like my dog, make sure this time I wake up." Hmm? Hmm? And they're like, "Good, that's good." And they're like, keep saying all this medical shit. And they're like, "Are you a doctor?" And he goes, "I have been visited many times by doctors." That's what I think about when I read this one, which is, "Please don't squirt your sperm on my face because I washed my hair this afternoon." Good. I sent you.
Wait, you didn't play it?
Oh, I think he did.
Oh,
I think we just couldn't hear it. I think it's
let's hear it.
above human frequencies.
This is that one. This is I want a terminal patient to piss in my mouth.
Oh yeah, now I can. Yeah, you really feel.
The want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's deep.
Now this
I
is.
can hear some sort of liquid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you the title of this one until
Yeah.
I want you to tell me the title of this one.
This one is. Hold on. Yeah, I think that 9-volt battery can fit in my pee hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually. That's wrong, Aaron.
That's actually on his 6th album.
The correct answer was I want to be fucked by you in my room, surrounded by old photos in which I was happy because I had 2 legs.
Fucking Christ.
want to be fucked by you
In my business.
Wow.
in my room,
Really feeling this one.
surrounded by old photos in which I was happy because I had 2 legs.
Not the number of legs I have now, which is definitely not 2.
Right.
It could be 3.
In theory, yeah.
It could be 0.
But ironically, on this album too, we have this, which is a much more hopeful song.
Clearly.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
there
you can get it.
This is erotic dreams of a young slut with an amputated leg.
Oh.
1.
And
You still got 1 leg in the game here, Aaron.
you can hear the hopeful ones have a lot more effort put into them.
Yeah.
There's layers of this.
I think I'm being downloaded with some sort of information.
This is the Matrix, dude.
It's like if you
I
took
think I know.
sound.
I think I can fly a helicopter now.
Yeah, I think you're fucking red pilled.
if you took
Dog
sound
build.
and just hit it with a hammer, and just
God, that is.
so
Isn't that
that
a
was
hard time.
That was
So
the
sure.
thing at the end.
That was my favorite one. God, want to be fucked by you in my room.
Surrounded by old photos.
God, it's so fucking insane.
You be thirsty for beer piss.
Ugh. Asexual dream team. Post-masturbatory suicide. Excessive vaginal wetness. It's like the 3-word ones. Boom,
Yeah,
boom,
I mean,
boom.
you can really just roll them off the tongue.
Isn't that great?
All of those things.
Man, we got to go to Italy between the stigmata and that shit.
I mean, they got everything.
They got everything over
Porn
here.
star politicians.
Ah,
Stigmaters.
mhm. Popes in the river.
Red brigades.
God, isn't that good shit?
That's actually a good song title.
Red Brigades.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to share that with you boys. I thought you would
did.
really,
Thank
really
you.
enjoy it.
Thank
love
you,
it.
thank you, thank
I love
Chris.
a good post-masturbatory suicide.
And so now
because
we
if you're
know-
gonna go, you might as well come.
Now, also, we know which Venta
Yeah.
Proto 6 albums are shit
Yeah.
Yeah.
and which actually have something to say.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're a fan of Venta Proto 6, drop us a line with words, preferably.
The words are the most
Yeah,
important.
use your
part.
words
Uh-huh.
and let us know what are the classics and who are the who is the creed to the Pearl Jam of the genre, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Right. Yeah, who means it?
yeah, and are there Venta Proto 6 kind of knockoff?
Other Venta
Yeah.
Proto 5s.
Right.
Yeah, what happened with the 5?
Mm-hmm.
Let us know. Drop us a line.
Yeah. Tell us who's the Nickelback, who's the Dimeback.
If you just hear
Who's
if
the
you-
dime
if
bag?
You hear a
Who's the
Daryl.
guy?
dial.
Daryl, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Wow. If you hear a dial tone for a while, that's just
Yeah,
the
can we
song.
play this
That's-
for Matthew Weigman and he can, like decipher some shit?
21 and 5 is 6,
Throwback
12,
to
12,
episode
12,
number 1.
All right, let's call it. I'm going to say goodnight, folks. I love you. My name's John Fahey.
I am 3 children in a trench coat. Aaron Pita.
Remember, so.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Good night.
Scarpins Avenue.